Preserving the planet. The Micro Effect. www.themicroeffect.com.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
There was a mighty nation, blessed above all of creation. It was a rare and precious pearl, conceived in faith and liberty, home of the brave, land of the free. It was the envy of the world. But this shining city on a hill has turned from the Creator's will and let evil take control. Now the reckless men who lead them want to strip away their freedom and to steal their very soul. Now it's smoke and mirrors, switching bait, criticize and confiscate and let the guilty walk away. In this once righteous, godly nation, in the halls of education, they forbid a child to pray. They say we need to spread the wealth. They pretend to guard the health of the feeble and the poor, while the hand they hold behind their back confuses and conceals the fact that the wolf is at the door. There's an unseen hand that pulls the string.
Well, good morning, Radio Free America, and it is another beautiful morning here in southwest Montana. It is Tuesday, February 19th, and we have a great program lined up for today. We have an ongoing, continuing discussion about cryptocurrencies, and this is something we've had on our radio program before, but we are going to be speaking to someone today who really has done a tremendous amount of research into the cryptocurrency field, into how the Federal Reserve and international are getting themselves inserted into the system, and how they plan to take over the entire cryptocurrency market in a way that makes it their very, very own. And so with that said, our guest today is Kent Lewis. Kent is a free market entrepreneur. He is a tech-savvy, very, very bright man that understands just exactly how this whole thing has come together. And he's written several peer-reviewed articles on cryptocurrencies, and I'm excited to have him on the show today. And incidentally, I did contact my friend Jeff Wright, who has also talked about cryptocurrencies and who actually wrote the security software for the Federal Reserve System. And I asked Jeff if he could also join us, but he had prior commitments. But I see a really, really good opportunity for a further show down the road that we can have both of these gentlemen on together. I would just absolutely love to really get into the depth of this stuff. It seems like every time we turn around, we're losing more and more of our freedoms. It seems like every time we turn around, we're finding that more and more subversive and diabolical acts are being perpetrated on the American public, and this is certainly an example. If, in fact, they can control our monetary policy, control our currency, control our money, they can control everything we do. And that was certainly the discussion last week with Alan Meyer, and now I think we will continue that discussion. So, Kent, welcome to the show, and I look forward to hearing this discussion.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you for having me on your show.
Well, would you give our listeners a little bit of a background on yourself? Because I met you at the Red Pill Expo last summer, and then I had a lot further discussion with you at the Freedom Force International Congress over in Paso Robles here in December. And you're a fascinating individual. You've got a lot of people who follow you. And I would love to give you the opportunity to kind of expand on that a little bit and tell a little more about your background.
You bet. I've been in software for over 25 years, and I developed platforms. I was in real estate software for many years. I was a participant in the invention of real estate transaction standards. And I've owned many different, well, I don't know about many, but quite a few different successful companies. And currently, I own a platform called www.freedom.social. And we've got Freedom Tube, which is similar to YouTube. And, you know, I about 2.5 years ago, I was just kind of starting off in cryptocurrencies, and I had heard an interview between Sean at SGT Report and Lynette Zhang. And I had to sit back in my chair, and I went, uh-oh. And I had cloned a cryptocurrency called Ethereum. And I went out and studied it, and I saw what they were doing specifically with blockchain technology. And what they had done is they had engaged the International Standardization Organization to create standards for every product and service in the world for the blockchain. And to me, you know, having a background in standardization, it really kind of piqued my interest. And I started digging more, and I had discovered a company in China called acchain.org that had, for their pilot market, they had also cloned Ethereum, but they had tied the cryptocurrency side of it to the IMF SDR, and they had, for their pilot market, had literally tokenized all the tea in China for their pilot market. And at that point, I realized I was off on a journey discovering what specifically central banks, corporate banks, governments, and corporations were doing specifically with blockchain technology to enslave humanity.
Well, you know, that's a perfect lead-in, Kent, because actually these peer-reviewed articles you've written, I went through them quite extensively over the weekend and looked at some of the things that you've uncovered, and it's fascinating because, you know, it makes sense. If the most powerful, wealthy people in the world can control something and continue to control it, they're certainly not going to let it just slip through their hands. And these people have power, more ability at their fingertips than the rest of us put together. And you know, the reality is that they're not going to let this happen without them in control. And that's exactly what you're telling listeners.
It is, but it's much far worse than that. Far worse.
Okay, let's get into this in depth. I really want to hear all that you have to expose.
Sounds good. I was a speaker at Red Pill Expo. I was also a speaker at Freedom Force International talking about this, and I created a visual PDF to explain. And so where my research led me was to a company that was formed originally by the New York Federal Reserve. It's now a private company. That company is called Digital Currency Group. Digital Currency Group has 3 board members that are on the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, including Larry Summers. And Digital Currency Group, what they literally did is they reinvented the entire world financial system within specifically blockchain technology. And they have technology that reads public blockchains. And so what they did is the ISO, or International Standardization Organization, as I previously stated, created standards for every product and service in the world. And what this does is this creates metadata. And so in the future, when they collapse this global economic Ponzi scheme in which they've intentionally created, they will be able to step in and say, well, hey, don't panic, world, we've got a solution. And so to tell you more about this company called Digital Currency Group, this company owns everything from Coinbase, the largest cryptocurrency exchange in America. They own Circle, who owns Poloniex. Well, Coinbase is essentially the regulatory arm of the SEC, because what they started doing is they started allowing over 40 decentralized cryptocurrencies to register at Coinbase to be traded. But when they do that, they put them through SEC regulations. So instead of the government coming out and creating a new regulatory agency to regulate cryptocurrencies, they had the Federal Reserve created a private company that does it for them. It's just absolutely brilliant. And then Circle, who owns Poloniex, came out with U.S. dollar coin. And ironically, everybody, just last week, J.P. Morgan Chase, who just a year ago was calling Bitcoin a fraud, quote unquote, Jamie Dimon was, J.P. Morgan Chase came out with their own cryptocurrency tied to the dollar. Okay? And so what I'm not sure where you want to go with this from here. If Dan, if you want me to tell you more about Digital Currency Group or what their end game and where they're taking society to, our country.
Kent, I'll tell you, we're all about education here, and I'm just fascinated because you are someone who has really peeled back the curtain and looked in great detail at cryptocurrencies and how this is all structured. So please go ahead and continue on with your explanation and your expose of Digital Currency Group and some of the players that and how they are interrelated, how this is all interconnected, because I know you've indicated the connection to all the other things that we're dealing with, like Agenda 21, climate change, all this stuff. It's all interrelated, and that's exactly why we call our program Connecting the Dots, and you're helping us to connect those dots.
And that's what I did when I first created my very first report called The Central Banker's Evil Blockchain, is, they don't tell you initially a lot about what they're up to, but you can find crumbs. And then you just start lining them up, and then you connect the dots, and you see where they're going with this. And so, there's this phenomenal story where this anonymous Japanese fella by the name of Satoshi supposedly invented Bitcoin. Satoshi Maito. Satoshi, I believe that Bitcoin was created by artificial intelligence and modified by humans. I believe, these secret societies, the cabal, they have technologies 10 to 30, even further in advance that they ever tell us about. And, their end game is, everything without exception that you see occurring today is about one world government, the enslavement of humanity, and they have to destroy America from the inside out. And, the cashless society is just one aspect of UN Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, in which you've got smart cities. And so I live in the mountains outside of Denver. And so from Fort Collins down to Pueblo is about 150 miles. Well, they consider the UN Agenda 21 relocation map, because they do plan on forcing everybody out of the rural areas into smart cities. So that's 150 miles that will be a smart city. Well, what's a smart city? A smart city contains the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is everything from your appliances. I mean, smart refrigerators, smart microwaves, washer and dryer, you name it, everything will be smart. And then what it does is they're installing 5G. 5G is the big new thing. You see all the different mobile carriers advertising 5G now. Well, 5G is a military-grade technology in which it is a very high bandwidth that can allow billions of devices to connect simultaneously, including transhumans, or humans that either have a neural link or an RFID chip in their hand, and we'll talk about that further into our conversation. But let's stay on smart cities. So smart cities will all have 5G, and then all of your appliances and smart cars and everything will be connected to the 5G. Well, the smart cities will be managed by artificial intelligence. And they plan on, and then so everything within the Internet of Things will be on what's called a blockchain. The blockchain is essentially the matrix that makes up these smart cities. So you'll have, if millions, if not billions of items that are connected to via the 5G frequencies to the 5G, which is managed by artificial intelligence, and including the cryptocurrencies. And then this ties into the International Standardization Organization creating standards for the blockchain for every product and service in the world. And then if we take about 100 steps backwards and we look at what every Rothschild-controlled central bank in the world has been doing since 2008, is they've been utilizing what's called quantitative easing to run up large budget deficits, and just not America. That's every country in the world. And so what they're going to be able to do is collapse, at the time of their choosing, collapse the entire world economic Ponzi scheme, and then they're going to be able to fall back upon this decentralized cryptocurrency and central bank-issued cryptocurrency as our one world currency world, utilizing blockchain technology is the matrix or the glue that holds it all together. Does that make sense?
Kent, I'm telling you, this is a fascinating discussion. We're going to have a fun 2 hours here, because you're talking about things that our listeners, we've brought some different points of view into this discussion over a long period of time. But the reality is, this is also thoroughly and brilliantly tied together. Blockchain technology and RFID and all the control mechanisms that are built into the Internet of Things, which is basically everything in the world. Every item is identified and has an RFID signature. And when they can connect all this together in the smart cities that you're talking about, and by artificial intelligence, they can literally control everything we do, see, hear, smell, feel, and definitely consume.
Yes, yeah, because one thing I did fail to mention was these smart meters. And obviously, the Internet of Things controls these smart meters. Ironically enough, I was driving home from California, and at a truck stop, I met this fascinating individual just out pumping gas, and he happened to be one of the executives at a smart meter company, and it was freezing cold outside in the middle of Nevada, and he and I sat there for about an hour talking about smart meter technology. Never got the guy's card. African American fella, just absolutely brilliant man. Thoroughly enjoyed speaking with him, and he explained to me that, via the 5G or even 4G, these smart meters are programmable to whereas they can just automatically download any software in which they need. So the new LCD light bulbs are also listening devices, as are your smart appliances. So if they need to find out what you're doing, if listening to us through Alexa or our devices is not enough, well, they can use a light bulb, or they can. So what we're really running into here is literally, the enslavement of humanity. Because so look at China's doing right now with the social scores, okay? And look who's doing this for them. It's both Microsoft and Facebook that have built these technological enslavement systems to create social scores in China. They're doing the same thing here, because when I log into my disgusting, gross Facebook account, and I do find it disgusting and gross, I'm being shadow banned because I've been given a social score for telling the truth. And so nobody sees my posts anymore. I hardly see anybody else's posts. And the same thing with YouTube. You go over to YouTube, they're not only censoring the truth, they're deleting the truth. And, if you want to take, quite a few more steps back and talk about how they have socially engineered society to get this far, because patriots would never go for what they're actually allowing the powers that be to forcing upon them. They came up with social justice. They came up with political correctness before that, and then on any of these social platforms, you look at In-Q-Tel, you look at Facebook, you look at Google, YouTube, you look at Instagram. Well, how do they get so popular and get billions of users on them? Well, they also control the media, okay? And so there's a company called In-Q-Tel. In-Q-Tel is got a 9 a.m. mental block. I usually get up about noon because I work with programmers around the world. But they're the investment arm of the CIA. The venture capital is the word that I was looking for, of the CIA. And so the CIA and DARPA essentially runs all of the media. They control the Facebook. They control the YouTube. And what they've done is if you speak out on Facebook now, it used to be where they had actually disinformation agents that would go in and group attack you for speaking out against vaccines or geoengineering or what have you. Well, not anymore, because everything is now plugged into artificial intelligence. And they've got artificial intelligence that is so smart that they can create their own accounts, and they can actually argue back and forth with human beings as group attack. So, I'm not sure where we go. I know that this is a conversation about cryptocurrency and blockchain, and I just took us off into left field, but it does pertain within the overall conversation. And, that's what I do for a living within the software platforms which I've created within Freedom.Social. Freedom.Social is a platform for freedom-minded people to get slowly red-pilled into what the truths are. And I'm under the impression, if we don't get at least 3% of America woke up and do it soon, not only is our country over, so is humanity. because the future of humanity is, in fact, transhumanism, where your children, your grandchildren, will be cyborgs that are controlled and managed by artificial intelligence. And anybody listening to me right now that just looked at me and goes, this guy's full of it, I'm telling you, that is, in fact, what they are doing. And, and so if anybody that walks out their door, Dan, out of everything that these I usually call them globalists or the cabal, out of everything that they're doing to us, because I'm pretty aware of everything that they're doing, this geoengineering, when I see a plane flying over and it's just spraying us like bugs with aluminum and strontium and barium and nanotechnology comprised of nanobots, it drives me insane because nobody says a word because everybody was socially engineered not to speak out. And it drives me crazy.
Yeah, Ken, it drives me crazy too, because what you're talking about is cognitive dissonance, and our whole society is based on the idea of identifying and staying away from people that have extreme ideas. The problem is they stay away from the people that have knowledge and good ideas about what's going on in the world, and they continue to listen to the garbage that's being promoted by the other side, and they are learning a lot of really, really negative, nasty things as being social norms now. And I know that's exactly what you're all about, is teaching people to recognize those deviations from the truth.
It is, because what they did was, back in the 60s, the CIA created the term, excuse me, I was about ready to sneeze. So what they do is they utilize Saul Alinsky tactics. I don't know if anybody out there has ever read the book, Rules for Radicals. Then they take other pages out of other, people's work, and they actually coin the phrase conspiracy theorists. And they make us, and then what they do is they utilize Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, where you blame your opponent for what you're doing, and everything is the actual opposite of what it actually is. And then they utilize their mockingbird media to brainwash the masses into, see, they don't care if you think left or right, as long as you're not paying attention to what they're actually doing within the internal destruction of America. Me and you, Dan, I'm sure that most of your listeners are freedom-minded folks. But they don't, they want diabolically opposing sides. That's what they need. It's their divide and conquer strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. Kent, we've got a commercial break coming up, but we'll pick up that thought on the other side of the break.
This is The Micro Effect. The Micro Effect. www.themicroeffect.com.
Welcome back to Connecting the Dots with Dan Happel, and today my guest on the radio program is Kent Lewis, and Kent is really a fascinating individual. Kent, I'm thrilled to have a new friend who I believe will be someone that I will work with in the future to be definitely educating the American people, and I really want to be involved with stuff that you're involved with, because I see you as being a very intelligent, very positive tool in enlightening America to what's happening to, as you say, not only America, but the entire world. And this blockchain technology, the the way that this is all really interlaced is such an incredibly important thing for people to understand. They are figuring out ways to control absolutely every aspect of our lives, and they're doing it right in front of us, and they're doing it oftentimes with not only our approval, but our assistance, and that is terribly, terribly important. So, with that, I'd like to turn it over to you, and let's continue with this discussion.
You know, Dan, I'm all about solutions. Me personally, I want to wake people up, so therefore you have to keep talking about things. And then on the other side of things, I am so tired of talking because I'm informed and I understand and I see what they're doing. And so I created a brand new platform we have not launched yet, but that one's called freedom.buzz. And that one is an independent media platform. It's got internet TV. It's got live streaming. It's got video conferencing. And what we're going to do, you know, here in the very near future, in the next month, 60 days at most, is we will be able to have this radio show on freedom.buzz. Tours will be able to, we'll be on the radio. But, you know, anybody who wants to see a visual presentation, you know, we can kind of explain things to them. And so what we've done is we've created different groups in order to inform people about the facts. And what I did is I went out and I created strategic alliances. And I recently talked with the company, just an incredible bunch of people, called the In Power Movement, with Cal Washington and Mary, and where they are actually putting a notice of liability back onto the utility companies for 5G. And they're doing the same thing with vaccines and some other really good things to try to, you know, to legally fight back. We're partnering with some geoengineering organizations. I just created a new website called parentsagainstgeoengineering.com. parentsagainstgeoengineering.com. Now, keep in mind, we have not yet launched freedom.buzz, but it is up live. And, you know, we've created all these different groups for vaccines. You know, I've met Del Bigtree at some of these events in which you and I met at. And I could just keep going on and on, you know, about the GMO foods. You know, all of our food and our water is now poison. Our air is poison. And, ladies and gentlemen, this is intentional. This is about Agenda 21. It is a depopulation agenda. It's soft genocide, in my opinion. And, you know, the only thing we can do is get people aware and then take peaceful action. But we got to do it now. And we've got to unite. And if we don't unite and start taking action, well, it's over, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. We have so many intelligent people like you that are waking up America and really trying to educate people all over the world, not just America, but all over the world. I mentioned this to you. We know that we have people in 20 countries listening to this broadcast. We have, through our social network platforms, we know that people are starting to pay attention to the kind of conversations we're having here. And the only way we're going to win this battle to save humanity, and it is that, Kent, understand that part of Agenda 21 is to reduce the world's population by 93%. I mean, if that isn't something that's worth fighting for, I don't know what is. So, yes, you're right. We need to work together, and we need to make America and the rest of the world understand just how deep and diabolical this whole process has become.
There's a website in which my friends over at Victoris Libertas did a video on. The website's called Deagle. I don't know if it's .com or .org. It's probably .com. And they're a forecasting business, and they do forecasting, for commodities and what have you. But they forecasted the population for the United States of America in 2025 to be under 100 million. Want to explain to me where over 200 million people are going to go in the next 6 years?
No kidding. Yeah, 230, almost 40 million.
Sure.
That's a pretty important statistic.
It is, and they do have an explanation. You can go over to either Freedom Tube and watch that video, or they do have a YouTube channel. It's called Victoris Libertas. And Dan, until people are personally affected, they don't take action. Okay? And so think about this. Anybody with any common sense, and I don't want to insult anybody, but let's insult ignorant people. And my website's freedom.social if anybody wants to yell at me. If anybody cannot walk outside their door and disseminate the difference between a contrail and a chemtrail, I'm sorry. I've lost all hope for that person. I know that it's just if somebody is going to allow a plane above their head to obviously be spraying something that is not vapor that evaporates, and just not say anything, we're in trouble.
Yeah, you're right. I can remember, this was about 20 years ago. We had I'd been seeing these chemtrails, but I didn't know really what was going on. And one day we had a heavy snowfall, and the snowfall came down, and it apparently trapped all these things that were in the atmosphere. And anyway, when it was all said and done, there was a yellow coating all over our vehicles that were out in the driveway. And I put some of that material in a jar to see what exactly it was, have it tested by a laboratory. And it was aluminum oxide, barium, and I can tell you that that convinced me that there was something in the atmosphere going on, and that's when I started following the chemtrail thing.
It is, and I've spoke with Dave Wigington at length. Our friend Giovanni Griffin did have a conference on geoengineering. He even produced a movie called "What in the World Are They Spraying?" And again, until people are realize that they're personally affected, people will not get involved. And so I created, like indicated previously, the website called parentsagainstgeoengineering.com. And so I'm working with quite a many fantastic women in which are going to go have a follicle test done on their children to test them for aluminum, barium, and strontium in their bloodstream. And we get thousands of angry mothers railing against this. I think we can win it because people just, they've been trained, Dan. They've been trained through a process of social engineering not to speak out, not to say anything. But until they're personally affected, you get their kid. Imagine this. They'll even go down and have a follicle test done on their children. Can you imagine the look on their face when they find out that their children have a highly elevated amount of metal in their blood? So,
oh yeah. There's nothing like the maternal instinct to get action done, and I know that they're trying though to destroy that as well, because that's part of the social engineering now, to create all this, different transgenderism and homosexuality and all the other, is to destroy that natural maternal instinct in the natural process of the family.
Yeah, they have to destroy the family. They have to destroy gender identity. They have to destroy Christianity. It's about one world government. But their ultimate objective, and I haven't mentioned this yet intentionally, but I'll go ahead and I'll mention it now. Their ultimate objective is what's called the singularity. Because within this aluminum, strontium, and barium, which is called nanotechnology, they are also spraying what's called nanobots. Nanobots are a 1/1,000,000th of the size of a microprocessor chip, in which they have technology so advanced that they can actually put it into an aerosol. These nanobots are programmable via frequencies. Now, to my research, they will only be able to control your mood, put thoughts into your head, create bodily functions of all things. But that patent's been around since the late 60s. Anybody listening right now, you can go start up a browser and type in Google mind control patent, where they can, this is fact, they can modulate the frequency of your device and instantly change your mood. And that's what they're doing. It's called the singularity. Elon Musk talked about it in detail with his interview with Joe Rogan. Okay? Now, everybody listening, think about this for a second. Next time you're on Facebook or YouTube, it is plugged into artificial intelligence. The reason that this is done is it's called machine learning. And it's got several different purposes. To know you better than you know you is number one. And then number two, to take over is the global brain. Okay? So then you'll have all this nanobot technology that they're spraying us with. They've got the 5G in place, and then they'll just be able to control humanity, and it is the ultimate enslavement. So we started off with the conversation about cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology in Agenda 21 2030, and we've come all the way to what's called the singularity. And if anybody, there is snippets of that conversation on YouTube between Joe Rogan and Elon Musk. And I would encourage anybody to go and watch it. Now, Elon Musk owns another company, and he's got something called a neural link. And there's a couple different types of them, but the most uninvasive type is just a kind of like a cap with electrodes that you put on, like a little helmet, and you're able to, what it does is it connects the bandwidth, or eliminates this. It's a connector to the high bandwidth between your brain and artificial intelligence, whereas you will be superhuman. That's why they're pushing all of these the devices where you can just watch anything with a headset on. I've got a bad cold this morning. I'm on all this cold medicine, and I got a cold yesterday, and I'm sure you can hear it in my voice. And the first cold I've had in about 10 years, and I'm not thinking, not as sharp as I usually am.
Well, all I can tell you, Ken, if you're not as sharp as you usually are, you're pretty sharp, because what you're talking about is all stuff that, yes, people need to know. They need to understand. What do people think they put in that gigantic information center south of Salt Lake City for, if it isn't to enhance the government's ability to monitor and control everything that happens in our country and around the world?
Well, in my home, I've got multiple smart TVs, and so that, and then you've got your device. I'm talking to you on a cell phone now, a smartphone. Then other people, a lot of people have tablets, and then people have. That's why they're pushing these Alexa devices now, virtual reality headsets, because what they're doing now. Let me take a couple steps back. The other night, because I hadn't seen it in a couple years, watched William Benny, the former head of technology at the NSA, do an interview called Tragedy and Hope. And anybody that has not seen this needs to really go watch it, okay? Because William Benny explains to you what they're doing. And so every single phone call is recorded, including this one, okay? But what the ultimate goal is artificial intelligence is machine learning. And so every time in the future, instead of typing something into Facebook or YouTube, you'll have this neural link connection in which you'll just be able to put in a thought over to Facebook, and it'll just automatically communicate with anybody else. Instead of us having this radio program, we'll just be able to do telepathy, towards we're all connected. It's the global brain. It's called the singularity. That is what they're doing. And they say that they won't have the singularity till 2040. I don't think so. The singularity will, in fact, begin by 2025, and most of humanity will be enslaved by 2030. And what I've done is I've created technological approaches within technology, both platforms and cryptocurrency, and within decentralized marketplaces, for those who want to circumvent what they are doing, to live free. And that's what I do for a living, is I build technologies to circumvent what's coming our way.
Well, Kent, you had mentioned the nanotechnology that are in the atmosphere that are being sprayed, and I know that Michael Crichton, and I don't remember the name of the book, but he wrote a book, it's been, I would say at least 15 years ago, that discussed that in some detail. It was a novel, but it was certainly a good one. And I am kind of thinking it was called Prey, P-R-E-Y. But it was about them using that nanotechnology to create living things that could humanity. And it was a fascinating read at the time, but then it's turned out that Michael Crichton was pretty clairvoyant in a lot of things, and that the techno freaks just hated his guts. The people that are trying to use the system to gain control, and he kind of ended up being the bad guy as far as they were concerned.
When I look at everything that's transpiring, and then I look at the different think tanks that, have supposedly, created all these different diabolically evil yet extraordinarily genius plans. You have to look at the CFR, the Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, and I could just keep going on and on. And then you look at who you cannot speak out against. Who is it that you cannot boycott? And I've never been politically correct. I've just absolutely refused. I'm always polite and courteous to everybody. I don't care who you are, what color your skin is, what God you pray to. To me, that's who a real American is, as long as somebody's a good and decent person, I despise racism of any type. But with that footnote said, who's behind all of this? It's not the deep state, although they're allowing it to continue. It's not the shadow government, although they're all for it. It's secret societies that actually control these think tanks. And, it all comes out, and anybody that's listening to me now, please forgive me, because I believe Israel has a right to exist, but it is the intelligence agencies of Israel. Let's just come out and let's just be real honest. And so, Dan, if you'd like to elaborate on that, I can give you some details on that.
Yes, please do, Kent. I'm all for it. Tell us what you know.
Well, there's a higher education program in Israel called FIAT. And then they have a division called Unit 8200. And so Prime Minister Netanyahu recently did an interview calling Unit 8200 the equivalent of the NSA. I never really knew that much, but that it was that much, but it is. And what he says is it's almost as big as the NSA. And so Talpiot and Unit 8200 have invented everything from the microprocessor chip to the RFID chip to facial recognition. They have invented 5G. They have invented the software called Palantir, in which the Five Eyes of the world utilize to spy globally on all of the people. And then when you start looking at these UN Agenda 21 smart cities and all the different technology that goes into the smart cities, and then you look at these people in California who got their homes burned down. I know I'm taking a big leap, but they put these clauses into their insurance claims that we will not boycott Israel. Then you look at this new legislation that's just passed through Congress, you cannot boycott Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, all you have to do is look at who you cannot speak out about and who has actually invented all of this technology, actually stole it from the USA, is in fact in the process of selling it to Russia and China, which I can also prove. Then that's who's behind this, is the Zionists. It's not good and decent Jewish people. Okay, I did not say that. I do not have anything good against good and awesome Jewish people. I have a lot of good Jewish people, friends myself, but it is these secret societies against that are, we just call them Zionists. And, I'm just going to keep going. Why do President Obama and Hillary and John McCain created ISIS? Well, why did they create ISIS? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the United States is ISIS. We created ISIS. Well, why? Well, all you have to do is look at Hillary's emails, because Israel did not want Iran over there. And furthermore, it's the greater Israeli project. We've got our brave young men and women who I 100% support. It's not their fault. They're getting sent every place for the interest of secret societies, which is just a fact. But they are occupying the land within, and I'm a Christian. Okay, I believe that Jesus was the coolest guy that ever walked the face of the earth. But I got to tell you, that's it's the greater Israeli project. Our troops are occupying the part of Syria which is given to the promised people within the Bible, and that's what their ultimate objective is Jerusalem will be the headquarters of the New World Order, and that's who's behind all of this. that and also the Jesuits.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll pick this up on the other side of the break, but I can't identify anything that I disagree with you on. So let's pick it up on the other side of the break.
This is The Micro Effect. The Micro Effect. www.themicroeffect.com.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
There was a mighty nation, blessed above all of creation. It was a rare and precious pearl, conceived in faith and liberty, home of the brave, land of the free. It was the envy of the world. But this shining city on a hill has turned from the Creator's will and let evil take control. Now the reckless men who lead them want to strip away their freedom and to steal their very soul. Now it's smoke and mirrors, switching bait, criticize and confiscate and let the guilty walk away. In this once righteous, godly nation, in the halls of education, they forbid a child to pray. They say we need to spread the wealth. They pretend to guard the health of the feeble and the poor, while the hand they hold behind their back confuses and conceals the fact that the wolf is at the door. There's an unseen hand.
Well, welcome back to Connecting the Dots with Dan Haplin. Today we are having a very fascinating discussion with my friend Kent Lewis, who is out of Conifer, Colorado. And incidentally, Kent, I lived in Denver and, well, the Golden area. I still got a partial ownership in a business down there. But I actually had property up at Pine Junction, which is just above you. And one of my favorite hangouts many years ago was a place called the Buck Snort Saloon. And I'm sure you're probably familiar with that little outfit. But anyway, I'm real familiar with your area, and this is a fascinating discussion because so far I haven't identified anything that I disagree with you on. And you're right, I have many Jewish friends as well, and this isn't about Jewish people at all. This is a discussion really of what are the forces behind all these international movements. And you've correctly identified them as being, well, let's say all part of the New World Order and part of a group of international bankers who are controlled by a very, very small group. So let's go ahead and continue this discussion, and I want to get back into a little bit into the blockchain technology because you've identified that as being really the ultimate goal is to control us because they can control everything we eat, see, hear, sniff, smell, and consume through the monetary policies of a digital financial system. And so we're trying to tie all these dots back together, and let's see how that all kind of ties together in your observation and in your opinion.
You betcha. The blockchain technology it can be a wonderful thing. It can, because information can reside in an unlimited amount of places simultaneously, it could be used for education or science or what have you. It's when it's utilized in a centralized manner by the evil people that literally has the ability to enslave humanity. And, that's been the ultimate goal of these globalists, since the days of Pike. And they're about ready to achieve their ultimate objective. But, I see how this is being created by man. And because it's being created by man, they're trying to force prophecy. They're trying to force it upon all of humanity on a global basis. And that's why they have intentionally divided everybody. That's why they've used mind control techniques to conquer and divide and literally brainwash folks. And that's why I do what I do with freedom.social and in the coming up freedom.buzz is to tell people the truth. Try to get people to unite and try to get people to take action. And because if we do it this year in 2019, we start taking, actions, like what the Empower movement is doing, and et cetera, et cetera. I think if we can get 10 million people to step up and say, you know what, this is not happening. And then at the same time, you look at, President Trump, I fought for him to be elected. He was the only option. We couldn't allow that evil witch to run the world because guys like me and you and everybody listening would already be in FEMA camps. With that said, he's a hard man to figure out. He baffles the heck out of me because I'm one of the most informed guys around, and I try to use just an independent, analytical, highly informed opinion, about everything that I approach. And he's very, very difficult to figure out. What do you think about President Trump, Dan?
Well, Kent, I labor with the same thing because I was a Trump fan only because Hillary Clinton was such a train wreck waiting to happen. I agree with you. I think had she been elected president, there'd be a bunch of us in FEMA camps already. But when Trump was elected, I actually went to the National Convention as a delegate from Montana to the National Convention. And I was tickled because every time I turned around, I saw something that indicated to me that he really was a populist who wasn't entrapped within the Republican establishment. And the fact that he's been attacked by the establishment Republicans so vociferously, and they have just tried to beat him to death, and it tells me that he really is independent. Now, does he make all the right choices and all the smart choices? No, I don't think so. But he, at least I believe that he is a true American, and he wants the best for our country as a sovereign country. And when he did his State of the Union speech here a couple of weeks ago, I was thrilled to hear him say that first of all, that we were a sovereign country, and secondly, that we would not be a socialist country. But who knows if he can be successful, but we need to support him when he is doing the right thing. There's no question about that.
I would agree with you, with a couple different caveats. And let me not that I disagree with you 100%, but let me play devil's advocate for a second. And the way I like to do things is I like to use deductive logic, okay? And I like to go back to the building blocks. And so I look at Trump in the late 80s. I look at him in the early 90s. Well, he was bailed out by Wilbur Ross and some other self-proclaimed Zionists. That is a fact. Wilbur Ross is the current day Secretary of Commerce. Wilbur Ross and Sheldon Anderson and some other fellas it was around $9 billion. And at the time, Wilbur Ross made the statement, he was in an interview, and somebody asked him, well, why did you do that? And they said, he will be a valuable asset we could take advantage of in the future. Pretty close to a quote, but paraphrasing. Then I look at his family structure, okay? And Kushner is a Zionist. He has given quite a bit of money to, I believe it's called Shabbat. And then I look at his cabinet, and they are all, to steal a phrase from my friend Cynthia McKinney, they're all Ziocons. When he picked Bolton, I sat back in my chair, and I went, are you kidding me? This guy is the biggest neocon Zionist in the history of U.S. politics, or at least one of them. And so, and then I look at who's behind this new world order. It is, in fact, the Zionists and the Jesuits. And he is also Jesuit educated. Have you ever read the Jesuit Oath, Dan?
Yeah, Kid, I'm always learning, and the reason I'm fascinated because, frankly, you're bringing up points that I was not aware of, some of these points, and so I'm fascinated. But yes, I have, and I don't think people realize we've had Liz Yore on this program, who is a writer for the Catholic newspaper, and she talks about the Pope Francis, the Black Pope, and how he is a very much a New World Order guy, a Zionist, or at least a promoter of that, a promoter of socialism and all these radical ideas. And I know that he's also the first Jesuit Pope, and the Jesuits were like the mob for the Catholic Church. They were the enforcers, and they were considered very, very bad until they kind of got a whitewashing toward the end of the 19th century. And to understand that he is now the Pope, it's fascinating.
I just was looking up this oath so that I can just read a section to you. I've read sections of the Quran, Takaya, where they can befriend you in order to trick you. And there's certain parts of the Old Testament, and there's certain parts of the Quran are pretty bad. When I read this Jesuit oath, I about swallowed my tongue. I did not read this, to be perfectly honest with everybody, till about 2 weeks ago. And anybody that has not read part of this Jesuit oath, and President Trump is Jesuit educated, it's absolutely disgusting. Essentially, what they say is, they will, in any way, I won't go into detail, but they are there to kill everybody and anybody that does not parallel their beliefs. That's their oath.
Yeah, well, like I say, they were recognized as the enforcement wing of the Catholic Church. They were the bad guys. They were like the mob's hitmen, basically, up until the 1870s, 1880s, and they started to try to incorporate them in a more passive way within the church. But that doesn't mean that the order has changed any. And so, yes, you're spot on. And incidentally, this is a great subject for another show sometime down the road with some of my friends in the Catholic Church.
Let me read a couple sentences to you real quick. This is a little bit into the oath, but this says, I do further promise and declare that I will, when opportunity presents, make and wage relentless war, secretly, openly against all heretics, Protestants, and Masons, as I am directed to do. Let me get to the good part. Let's see. As I am directed to do, to extirpate them from the face of the whole earth, and that I will spare neither age, sex, nor condition, and that will hang, burn, waste, boil, flay, strangle, and bury alive these infamous heretics. Rip up the stomachs of wombs of their women, and crash their infants' heads into the walls in order to annihilate their, I can't even say that word, to annihilate their race. And I could just keep going. So these are the people, or if you want to call them people, behind this new world order, this new one world currency, Agenda 21 global blockchain enslavement system. So, Dan, where I started off with this is I said that the way that I like to do this is I like to go back to the building blocks, to the basics. You know, I like to go back and kind of build a history. And what I had established factually is that the self-proclaimed Zionists had bailed out President Trump in the late 80s, early 90s. And that, you know, and I went into his family structure, not in detail, but it's all Zionist. And then I went into his cabinet, which is all Ziocons. And then we had already pre-established who's behind this new world order within all their technology. And here's my point behind that. And I want to ask everybody and anybody listening to just take this into consideration, okay? If it is the Zionists and the Jesuits behind this, the fact of the matter is they are for open borders. And then when you look at President Trump, now I want to take his word for it too, okay? I really do. But when I see who controls him, who his handlers are, and believe me, all presidents are controlled, and he's for these open borders, well, I have to logically question, is he really for this wall? Is this wall to keep people out or keep us in, would be another question, in which a lot of my informed friends have posed that question, because he now has the ability, and furthermore, let me set some more precedents. Okay, we created ISIS. Okay, and then the CIA. This is just fact, ladies and gentlemen. Our intelligence agencies funded George Soros NGOs to facilitate the move of millions of Muslim men, 82% men, into Europe. Okay? Why? To destroy culture, to destabilize countries. Why? Because they want one world government, a world without borders. Now, let's come back over to present day. Our intelligence agencies are down in South America funding NGOs to fund caravans of migrants to come north. Now, granted, there is a deep state. There is a break within a difference between our intelligence agencies in which, you know, one side are fighting for Trump. You got your QAnon side, your other side that are loyal, and you got your other side that are loyal to the other side of the deep state. We can get into that conversation, but that's just a fact. They're down there in South America funding NGOs to fund these caravans to come north. It's one big Hegelian dialectic or problem reaction solution. It is their number one go-to move that they do again and again and again and again. And why? You know, that's the million-dollar question, you know, but That's where I stand. Is I don't know.
Kent, I think they're doing it because it's been working for them. They've been getting away with it for so long, and you bring a lot of things together, a lot of points together here, and the reality is they're doing it because it works.
The Hegelian dialectic, because they control the media. Just to give a little bit of history on that. In 1996, Bill Clinton signed into law the Telecommunications Act. The Telecommunications Act was awesome, fantastic for our mobile services, in which we had more choice. But what it did is it allowed, almost near 1,000 private media corporations to consolidate into 6 Zionist-controlled media outlets. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they are, in fact, go look it up, go over to freedom.social. There is factual information. The Zionists control all 6 media outlets. And then in 2013, President Obama signed into law the Defense and Authorization Act, which with inside that, I believe, is pork. They got rid of the 1948 Smith-Lunt Act, which makes it legal for the federal government to use propaganda on the American people. So what they do is they control the media. I don't know if anybody out there's ever went to YouTube and you watch some of these news clips where local media outlets across the nation are repeating the same story over and over and over and over and over. And what happens here is the intelligence agencies run all of our media now. And every morning and every afternoon and every evening, they get a memo going, hey, here's your talking points. There ain't no journalism anymore. It's all propaganda. It's all fake news. They coined the phrase fake news in order to be able to further divide and conquer the people. And that's why I created freedom.social. It's a media platform, social media platform, to get the truth out there.
Well, Kent, you're bringing up some fascinating points here, but yes, I know that about the Telecommunications Act. In fact, the Telecommunications Act was one of the worst things for this country. I remember when it was passed because it did consolidate, and it also legally gave the government the ability to wiretap or to enter into our personal communication systems through new technologies like television, internal cameras, and things like that I think a lot of people were not aware of. I have a movie producer, Matrix Productions, and he made a movie about the fact that the system is now down to 6 major movie production companies and telecommunication companies, and also they control most of the newspapers, everything else in the country, and that's a film called Network, and he did that back about I'm going to say about 3 or 4 years ago, but the whole idea behind it was to show how interconnected and totally controlled our media is in this country.
Their plan was so diabolically genius. It's just hard to imagine that everything that they've done, starting back in 1916 with the Federal Reserve, to taking out JFK in 62, to the Nixon taking us off the gold standard, to 9/11, which the Zionists were behind, fact, to different milestone points as you come from 9/11, the introduction of political correctness, then it was social justice, then it was the group attacks on the social media, And it's just, it's just hard for me to and then, some other things in which they did. You look at Bill Clinton also signing into law. It was not called the Affordable Housing Act, but what it did is it allowed, people that could get subprime mortgages that could not afford a home to get a home for zero money down. To me, it was all intentional. They managed this up until the mortgage crisis, because I was in mortgage software back in 2006, 2007 when this came around, and I went from doing really awesome to creating a new software platform because we were out of business because the entire real estate market was crashed in 2008. And this was all intentional. It was all pre-planned. And to me, to have think tanks think all of this up is, and this is a theory, I always try to state whether I'm talking fact or theory. I really do. I believe that artificial intelligence has been around a lot longer than they are telling us. And these secret societies, I think that they all work together. And I think that I think that if we get, and I'm going to intentionally change the topic because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole I almost went down. But it's time to start taking action. Because if we get, let's just say 3% of America, let's call it 10 million people, to stand up and say, you know what? No, you're not going to do this. You're going to stop poisoning our food. You're going to stop poisoning our water. You're going to stop spraying us like bugs. You're going to stop putting poison in our vaccine. Do you know that, I'm 54 years old. When I was growing up, the autism rate was far beyond 1 in 10,000. Dan, do you know what it is today? A 1.5-year-old infant goes down typically to get the MMR shot, and then the very next day they have autism. Do you know what the rate of that is now?
Yeah, it's like 1 in 26 or something like that.
I was going to say 1 in 32, but according to the movie Vax, by the current trajectory, by the year 2030, it will be 1 in 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what they say.
Yes, and then people, I know that everything that we're discussing within these conversations, I understand that it sounds like we're being conspiracy theorists, or I understand that it sounds like we're in a sci-fi horror movie. But everything that we're discussing, unless I say this is a theory, everything I've said is fact.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Kent. Incidentally, we are moving into commercial break. Let's pick it up on the other side, and I tell you, this is a fascinating discussion. Well, welcome back to Connecting the Dots with Dan Happel, and today my guest on this radio program is my friend Kent Lewis. And I have to tell you, one of the people speaking at this last break when we came back on the air was a friend of mine, Stan Jones. He ran for U.S. Senate in I don't know, I think it was 2006. Maybe it was 2008. Anyway, he was the only candidate that I'm aware of that spoke openly about the New World Order and how we were being taken over by the system. And at the time, the existing candidate or the existing senator that was there made fun of him and ridiculed him for being a conspiracy theorist. Boy, was Stan ever right, and was the senator ever wrong? And all I can say is that we have been moving into this for a very long time, and your discussion about it and your background and all you've researched is excellent, because like I say, I can't disagree with you on anything, and I've learned a few things in this discussion today.
Woke up, and I've got through my initial cold. I haven't had a cold in 10 years. I'm sitting here trying to talk with you, and I couldn't breathe. But I feel better now. So, I was sitting here during the break thinking about, everybody that's listening. I know one of the biggest questions in their mind is, what do we do? What's the solution? The solution is to have an organized platform to take all of these different organizations and cross-pollinate the subscribers or the members or what have you to join and assist other organizations. So what we're doing on freedom.buzz, and I've spoke with G. Edward Griffin at length about bringing in the good folks from Freedom Force International, Red Pill University. I've spoke with our mutual friend Richard Gage about doing some things with architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. I've got the good folks from Empower Movement who are shifting the liability on 5G and smart meters and vaccines back over to the utility companies. And some things on vaccines. I've created a new platform called parentsagainstgeoengineering.com to get parents involved, and I could just keep going. But you need an organized platform in order to say, okay, folks, we've got 1 million of us. What is our objective today? And what is our objective tomorrow? And what are the little tiny things that we can do? Well, if you've got a smart meter on your house, you can go over to the empowermovement.com and meet with them and print out paperwork and serve your utility company and send them a notice of liability, because these smart meters put off a high level of radiation. And the same thing if they put a 5G tower right next to your home. And if we get millions of people of us doing that, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fascinating because a small group of people that control everybody else, in effect, I think all of them, or at least the majority of them, are cowards. And the reason that they've been so effective is because they've been working so clandestinely for so long that they've managed to take over a system that's much larger than them. And all we need to do is wake up and break out.
They were in the process of shifting the power structure over to China. And so that's the difference within our deep state. I do believe that President Trump is a patriot, personally. That's what I choose to believe. Although everything that I've said today, I think that us patriots have to have hope. But you also have to be realistically, when you're factually informed, to see that he is controlled. He's got controlling parties. With that said, I believe that he is, my personally highly informed opinion is, he is in favor of the New World Order. But I think that it's a matter of who, it really boils down to who controls the money machine, who controls the printing of money. That's what it really boils down to. And Hillary represented the far left liberal communist side of of the New World Order, and Donald Trump represents his side of, let's just call it the deep state. And, this was what the One Belt Road is about. This is why the Republican-controlled Senate voted in TPP, because it gave up U.S. sovereignty to corporations. They were in the process of shifting the power structure over to China. And Trump represents a different side of the global cabal, because there is, I don't believe at this point in time that there is any stopping the momentum towards globalism, because that's what the secret societies that control the world want. Unless we just get millions and millions of people on the same page to say, nah, this is what you're going to do, because, we're 100 million people strong, and we're not going to go along with your game. And a matter of fact, we're going to put you all on trial for crimes against humanity. You look at 9/11. Okay? Let's really kind of have a real investigation here. Let's find out who was behind it, and I have a pretty good idea who was behind it. Okay, and let's put some people behind bars, and let's get some truth out there. But in order to get to that point, and by the way, speaking about 9/11, I believe that you had Richard Gage on a few weeks ago, and they've got a grand jury that has been set up in New York, and I believe that that's probably one of the biggest keys to waking up ideologically brainwashed Fox News Republicans that may still believe that it was some guys from Saudi Arabia that committed that attack, when in fact it was the deep state in the Zionists that committed 9/11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fascinating discussion. They've impaneled a grand jury in New York to look into 9/11 and the building collapses there, and it's a fascinating story, Kent, because if you look at how all these things, look at the trillions of dollars that we've spent being the policemen of the world, of the Middle East, and how much blood and sacrifice, and I'm talking all the way around. I mean, there's been over 1 million Iraqis killed in the process of that, and they thought Saddam Hussein was a bad dude. Well, compared to what's happened, and believe me, I'm ex-military. I am the strongest patriot in the world, but we ought to be fighting for truth and right and for our own country, and not be pawns in a scheme to take over the world.
Yeah, and I support our brave young men and women in uniform. They're there to do a job, but the powers that be, are there to serve the best interests of secret societies, and that it just personally, it gets me absolutely sick to see how many thousands of our brave men and women died because they wanted to create this war on terror in order to get to their New World Order, one world government. And it was all based on a lie. And it continues to be based on a lie. Did you see where Catherine Austin Fitts and a professor from Michigan State University found an additional $21 trillion missing from DOD and HUD? And, people often say to me, well, Kent, that's not in the budget. They can't afford that. Well, I think $21 trillion goes a long way to building, secret armies and establishing what they have established thus far.
Oh, yeah, the so-called war on drugs. Black Ops has funded trillions and trillions of dollars of black operations that have been primarily funded by the drug trade, and it's been run by the CIA for 50 years. It's amazing how much internal collusion there is that is funding this whole thing. And yeah, people can call it a conspiracy theory, but I think the blinders for a lot of Americans are off. And it isn't a theory, it's a fact. And it's a fact because, yes, there are things going on in this world that people have no idea about, but it's time that they wake up and at least try to find out more about it, because bottom line, they plan on getting rid of 93% of us around the world, and they can afford a heck of a lot of collateral damage.
Yeah, you are 100% accurate, Dan. 100%. You know, I grew up a patriot. You know, my blood bleeds red, white, and blue. And I'm such a fan of freedom and the Constitution, the way that it was intended to be. And to see, you know, other patriots so brainwashed, you know, the biggest thing that I would recommend to people is shut up. Don't read your newspaper. It's propaganda. Do not watch Fox News unless it's, you know, most of it is propaganda. Yes, we ideologically believe in what they're saying, but it is programming. You know, just because they maybe tell us 90% of the truth, it's the 10% of the disinformation that typically leads people awry into believing something that is just not accurate. It's just not true.
Well, and Kent, that's part of the reason that television networking news and programming now is all designed to look at the mundane, at things that are really not important to Americans, and gloss over any of the important things, because frankly it's gotten to the point where there's so little good that's being truthfully reported that they have to report things that are totally irrelevant.
Well, just keep in mind that every morning, every afternoon, and every evening that they get a memo from the intelligence agency saying that this is your talking points for the day. And so what they've effectively done is they've taken the left and they've pushed them further left out into Communistville. And they've taken, the right, and they've essentially, if they so choose, created civil unrest at best and civil war at worst. And it's up to guys, and I'll take on that burden because, that's what I saw what was coming years ago. And, a lot of people that I have quite the honor to meet some of the people that I've been able to meet, some of my heroes. And I'm nobody special. I'm just a software guy that was, that happened. I tell everybody just a real quick story. It was like 2011, and I was doing election software. And one of my candidates, I tuned into C-SPAN to see if my candidates had won, but there wasn't the results on. It was Richard Gage from Architects and Engineers from 9/11 Truth. And I had a friend on Facebook that kept relentlessly bugging me about 9/11. And I was this Fox News Republican guy, and I wanted no part of it. And I ended up watching Richard that night on C-SPAN, and my cognitive dissonance bubble burst, and I did not sleep for 3 days because I had realized that everything that I had been told was a lie. And I've been on a mission ever since, just a quest for knowledge, a quest for facts, and to try to wake up other people, and then ultimately to try to make a positive difference. And I'm telling you, and I say this at the end of all of my interviews, and if we do not unite, I'm telling you all now, your children and your grandchildren are cyborgs if they live through what they have planned for us. your food poisoned, your water's poisoned, your air is poisoned. Your kids are being indoctrinated in the local public indoctrination schools. Something's got to change, and it's got to come soon, or it's going to be too late, Dan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you're right. I think maybe in some ways it's too late now, but what option do we have? If we believe in liberty, if we believe in freedom, if we believe in the American dream and the vision of our founders, we have no choice. We've got to do what we can to expose this nightmare and to turn it around. We have no choice.
I'm on board. Anybody out there, so let me tell everybody out there, what I did. So, when I discovered what the central banks, corporate banks, corporations, and governments were doing with blockchain technology and coming full circle to cryptocurrencies as so decentralized cryptocurrencies that register with Coinbase are the new one world currency combined with central bank issued cryptocurrencies. Okay. And then they have technology that reads public blockchains. So in the future, they will, in fact, be able to implement global carbon taxes or value-added taxes. And if you're politically incorrect, they'll be able to shut off your money supply. Furthermore, you will have zero privacy, absolute zero privacy. And what I believe one of the things in which they're doing is they're going to force people to buy and sell on their system. And that has specific meaning to Christians. Yes, I believe that is, in one form or another, the mark. Okay? And so what I did is I created a technological approach both within decentralized platforms, within the freedom.social platform, and then I created Freedom Market, which we've got an open source decentralized version. And then I created a cryptocurrency that has obfuscation, or you can make anonymous payments. And then we have a private blockchain that's built into the wallet so that they cannot read our transactions. So one of our biggest, highest priorities at this point is to build out Freedom Market and Christian Market so that when they do pull the plug on this global economic Ponzi scheme, that we've got local marketplaces in which I also built in bartering to Freedom Market, in which people can, and then I also partnered with farmer markets, co-ops, initiatives that are nationwide, in which we're going to be able to go out to different local farmers markets and utilize either bartering or the 1776. I created a cryptocurrency with the technological approach to circumvent what they're doing, okay, so that people can choose to live free. And we give everybody 10 free 1776 just by registering on www.freedom.social. And we teach everybody, if anybody out there is a newbie to cryptocurrency and you want to learn, we teach everybody. It's actually pretty darn simple to download a wallet, and I think it could potentially be a pretty good, I can't use the word investment because that would be illegal, because we have a token you can purchase to utilize on our private marketplace. And we just started our own cryptocurrency exchange because the central banks control all the major cryptocurrency exchanges. And I've got a friend in Ireland and a friend in Australia and a couple more friends around the world that have contacted me over the last period of time going, hey, thank you for what you do. We want to join you, that are going to actually be the directors of offshore legal entities. We got a Seychelles Islands Foundation. We got a Belize IBC, and and everything's decentralized. And these globalists, these evil secret societies that want to take us down. We've got platforms that expose everything they're doing. So it just takes people, it takes courage, and it takes knowledge. And you guys got to get off your tails and get up and join us. Because if you don't, it's over.
Right. It takes getting off your butt and doing something. And, average Americans have had it so easy for so long that I think they're conditioned to take the easy approach. Well, guess what? It isn't going to be easy when the whole thing collapses. So you better get on the stick and you better get involved. Kent, I want to give you, we're running out of time, but I want to give you an opportunity to really plug your various social media sites and some of the things that you're involved in so that our listeners can learn more about you.
Dan, I see how they have to destroy the family, destroy gender identity, destroy Christianity. It's all about transhumanism. It's about the singularity. It's about human population reduction. I saw how they have to destroy Christianity. I'm not a Sunday church-going religious guy, but I personally believe that Christianity in its best form is a pillar of society. So I created a platform called Christian.team, Team as in Mary, www.christian.team. We've got Christian Tube, we've got Christian Market, and then we've got the C-Team cryptocurrency that allows Christians to circumvent and build out marketplaces globally. And we're giving free IPTV, which is a live streaming video for every church in the world to live stream Sunday church services. And we've got video conferencing for Sunday school or whatever they want. And I'm giving free of charge. Free. Here you go to everybody in the world that wants to be part of that platform. See, I don't want to be anything like Zuckerberg. He can kiss my American backside. I believe that we all have to be in this together as a team. We can't be in this individually anymore. And if we unite, we have a chance at pulling out and saving humanity. This isn't just about the United States of America. This is about humanity being taken over. And, it's about taking action. So anybody, if you want to talk with me, I fund this entire platform by what's called master nodes. And it can be quite lucrative potentially in the future. And so if anybody wants some free 1776 cryptocurrency or C-Team cryptocurrency, all you need to do is create an account at freedom.social or christian.team.
I have to tell you, Kent, this is one of the more fascinating discussions I've had in a long time. I look forward to having you on many times, and I hope you'll return and be involved with us as well, because I agree with you. It's all about networking, and it's all about working together.
Thank you, Dan.